actually get started.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
At the LASIK Vision Institute, we know LASIK is a big decision, and every one of our patients is unique. That's why we customize your LASIK journey to you.
I only have a certain budget.
No problem. Right now at the LASIK Vision Institute, get 20% off LASIK when treated in April. That can be over $900 off when treating both eyes, plus guaranteed financing options. So visit GetLVILASIK.com today to start your journey towards 20/20 vision. Must mention this promotion to be treated in April of 2024 to qualify. 20% off standard price of wave light procedure. Cannot be combined with any other offers. Go to GetLVILASIK.com for details. At the LASIK Vision Institute, we know LASIK is a big decision, and every one of our patients is unique. That's why we customize your LASIK journey to you.
I'm so busy right now.
We offer a mix of convenient days and times, including 30-minute virtual appointments to fit your schedule.
I would love it, but I have astigmatism.
We treat thousands of patients with astigmatism every month with great outcomes. The LASIK Vision Institute is making your journey towards 20/20 vision all about you. So visit GetLVILASIK.com today to start your LASIK journey.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
Ready to stand out, Army ROTC prepares you not only as a college student, but as a strong leader, allowing you to earn the rank of second lieutenant. You will be eligible for full tuition merit-based scholarships and develop leadership skills essential for your future. Start strong and enhance your college experience. Visit your campus Army ROTC representative today. To find out how you can earn up to a full tuition scholarship, visit goarmy.com/podcast to locate your closest ROTC program today. Army officers inspire, strengthen others. Paid for by the United States Army.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome into another fine Saturday night edition of Juxtaposition. This is an off-week makeup week, so you're going to get us next week, too. I know, some of you are sad about that. Get over it. Anyway, so we're here. We're live, and it's part 2 of JFK, CIA, MK Ultra, LSD. What happened to JFK and why, and probably part of the reason why the Kennedy family is as weird as they are. Just saying. Anyway, oh wait, did I say that out loud?
Other than inbreeding.
Well, there's that, too. Dude, yeah. So I know we don't usually talk about this kind of stuff here, but I have to say this. Am I the only one that's weirded out, like, that almost all of the Kennedy family have the same raspy voice thing going on?
I mean, okay, it probably wasn't the most kind thing I've ever said on Twitter. But when they had that little press conference and they zoomed in on the Kennedy in the back, I can't remember which one he is, and he had that look on his face, and I realized maybe we were a little bit too quick to judge what they did to Rosemary. Because holy crap, that was just, you talk about a death grimace. Anyway, they've all become creepy and further the further you get from Joe, the creepier they get. Joe was a creepy motherfucker to begin with.
Yeah, all I'm saying is, if it wasn't for where they were actually born, I would have expected banjos.
Right? Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, it's funny. So Jeff and I were talking about it last week when we missed another week, and it's like he was joking. I thought about it. I said, "Is the CIA conspiring to keep us from finishing the story?"
I mean, it's no worse than when we try to do October, and we usually wind up being cursed for at least 2 episodes.
And I should, anytime we try to do a multi-part episode, and this is why I like Delaney's idea of doing 2 hours, because then we could have done the full run of this one. And it's something we need to talk about. Start an hour earlier.
Yeah, I actually was going to talk to you about that. My roommate will be out probably first week in June, which is going to make my life a hell of a lot easier. So yeah, sometime in June we will probably be making that transition.
You know, that's not only the first thing that's happening, that's happening in the 1st of June, but I can't talk about that.
Oh yeah. We got to keep that under wraps a little bit longer.
Yeah, until yeah.
Although I can tell you're itching to talk about it, but we won't.
Right. So anyway, yeah, it's not our story to tell yet.
Not yet, but good things afoot. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
See what I did there?
Yes, we are. Lucky rabbit's foot.
A little bit of a pun there. All right.
So
anyway,
we haven't spoken in weeks.
Dude, it's been a month. I finally got round 1 with the Exterminator done, so now we get to do round 2 on Tuesday, and then they come back in 2 weeks and assess the damage and go from there. So I'm kind of feeling a little bit better about the money that I shelled out now that I've realized it's like a multi-step, several-week process, and I'm like, okay, feeling a little bit better about it now. But still, I did not realize how much of a pain it was to try to get rid of multiple types of pests at the same time, because now they're coming back on Tuesday to inspect for the first set and see if they need to do anything else, and then they're going to come back in a couple of weeks and do the next set, and then they're going to come back and check for those. Then they're going to start spraying the outside of the property. But the funny thing is, you know me, life throws lemons at my head, and I sell them for profit. So I've actually made the Exterminator a client. So he's been like, I'm really anxious to finish this to find out what you think so we can start working on stuff. I was like, dude, I've had to reschedule on you like twice, and you haven't batted an eye. You've already earned my bit. You've already earned my sponsorship and whatever the hell else you want.
We'll run ads on KLRN for him.
Oh yeah, we were already talking about that. Talking about giving him social media help and a bunch of other things, and he's gonna start.
Nice.
He's gonna actually start paying me if we get him enough results. So eventually, I will make money back off of this deal. So
there you go. You know, and it's rare to find good, tradesmen like that
anymore.
But finding people take pride in the work. It's like every time my gardener comes around and when I pay him, I'm like, that seems like a lot. And then I remember he'll come back 2 or 3 times after and be like, you need anything else done? Just because, to finish up because he was at the end of the day or whatever. And I'll be like, yeah, you know what? Those grapevines in the back keep coming back. Can you get those too? And he's just awesome. And then it's like, oh, you're totally worth the money, dude. So, because it's like, because I'm usually working 6'10", 5'10", or 6'8" in a week. I mean, that with my schedule. So it's like, having him do the heavy lifting, so all I have to do is mow the lawn. I'm cool with that.
Well, yeah. So the other thing is, because of what a pain this is, I actually started putting together a business proposal for him after I sent him the contracts. I was like, I could probably have you ready to retire in about 6 years if you really, really wanted to. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, dude, with as much of a pain as it is to get a house ready to do this when you have multiple pest problems, you really just need to offer a white glove service. Have somebody come in, partner with somebody to do like big debris removal if you need it, have a cleaning service come in and get the house prepped, and then basically they're making money, you're making extra money because you basically make sure that there's enough in there that you're getting a kickback from both of the other companies, plus you've still got your money coming in from the pest control. He's like, I knew I signed a contract with you for a reason. Let's start drawing
nice.
That up.
But moving out of Rick and Morty territory and into our conspiratainment.
Hey, you're the one that asked how things have been.
I know, and with the appendicitis and everything too. It's been a hell of a month. Like I said, the CIA is conspiring against us.
Oh yes, this is true.
So where we left off, we were doing the MK Ultra LSD, part of their, the CIA MK Ultra project, and their heavy reliance on LSD and a lot of the fuckery they did with drugs and prostitutes at the time. Moving on with this, and we teased it as, how did this tie into JFK's assassination? And the first big string would be one of Kennedy's mistresses. And this is one of the low-key ones. Everybody knows about Marilyn Monroe, and there was also, rumors of Jane Mansfield, and Jane Mansfield's ties to Timothy LaVey, but this one, she was well known, kind of a debutante socialite, but very private life, and their affair had been off and on since high school.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, me being the history buff that I am, this was one that I didn't really know that much about until I started digging into this. Because, apparently they had an on-again, off-again affair since the early 60s.
Yeah, and it began with, Jack being as smooth as he was. It started with him cutting in on her date at a prep school dance when they were both in high school. And for nearly most of the rest of their life, they were neighbors when Kennedy was a senator. Her and her husband were neighbors to Jack and Jackie. And her name, and some of you will recognize the name. You've heard about it. You've heard reference to it, but you never realized that the tie-in, and that was Mary Pincott Meyer.
I always pronounce that Pinchot. I blame the other guy, though.
I start to say Pinochet, and then I realize it's Pincott. and that's only because of the spelling of Honeycutt's name. Or, anyway, go on.
Moving on.
Yeah. But so one of the things that makes her, raises questions about this is that within 10 days of the release of the Warren Commission's report of Kennedy's assassination, she was murdered in her neighborhood. And it started, people looking into it realized that she lived in a world of secrets and spies and, running complicated international plots. She was married to a member of the CIA in 1946. They later got divorced. And after she was killed, the head of CIA counterintelligence, James Angleton, was caught breaking into her studio, her art studio, within hours looking for her diary.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all.
No.
But yeah, so, the weirdest thing is that if you start looking into this, so basically, so after her death, Chief of CIA Counterintelligence James Jesus Angleton, that's what you were just talking about, broke into. I mean, it was her artist studio, and it was attached to her brother-in-law Ben's house, looking for the diary. I mean, the thing that trips me out is you have to remember this woman was married to someone in the CIA, having an affair with someone who was a president, and then the CIA was looking for her diary. So you have to wonder what was in there that had them jumping through all of these hoops. And I mean, if you look at the reports of how she was murdered, it looks like a hit.
Chat saying you're coming in pretty quiet.
Shouldn't be, but let me. How about now? Because yeah, that's pretty cranked up now. So hopefully they're hearing me better.
Yeah, and what it was alleged that he was looking for was in her diary to see if there was any references to her affair with Kennedy, because it was she had signed in so often on the White House logs that it was said of her that she was by White House counsel Meyer Feldman that Mary was almost part of the furniture. She was always logged in when Jackie was out of town, and even when Jackie was in town, she would seat Mary next to John Kennedy as like she was a trusted confidant, and she was always there. She was always around. And what they were looking for, eventually, it was like when he took the diary, Mary's sister, Tony Antoinette, whose husband was also highly connected, they got it back as long as she promised to burn the diary. And while her husband, who caught, director of counterintelligence, assistant director of counterintelligence, rummaging through the studio, there had always been rumors of the infidelity, but it was always just kind of like, plausible. We didn't know. But in, later he's commented that reading through the diary, it was obvious that she was talking about JFK.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I got distracted trying to fix my levels and stuff, so...
That's right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think I fixed it now. Everybody in the chat says they can hear me now, so...
But one of the things is like where she wasn't the bombshell of like Marilyn Monroe or Jackie, to that matter. She was considered, there was an intellectual kinship between them. She was an artist and a free thinker who experimented with pot and LSD. And she was very different from Kennedy's other mistresses. I mean, it was always assumed that Kennedy was a sex addict. But in this case, it was like this was on a more cerebral level.
I'm pretty sure we're past the assumption stage at this point. But
yeah, exactly. I mean,
but yeah,
no. I like the analogy too. Is that basically the White House was like Mad Men.
I mean, back then it was
Mad Men
anyway.
West Wing.
But yeah, I mean, so back to that point though. I mean, you have to realize. I mean, this man was always surrounded by beautiful women. So the thing that makes this one different though is you're right. There was some sort of a long-standing, like, not even necessarily like, I guess just a cerebral connection. There was just something that always seemed like it was there for the two of them because, like you said, she was always around. The second the first lady wasn't there, she was there. She was basically part of the furniture, and I guess that's the thing because everybody's still like, we don't really even know if Jackie knew. Trust me, she knew. If it was that obvious, she knew because somebody would have told her.
Yeah, shortly after Kennedy became senator, before he became president, Mary filed for divorce from her husband. It was right after their 9-year-old son was killed in a car accident, and their marriage fell apart over grief. At that point, she became a pacifist and became critical of CIA's covert activities. This was also around this time that she was always known to have smoked pot, but it's when she started hanging out with Harvard professor Timothy Leary and had done acid with him. And he said later, prior to his death, that she had always asked him on how to run an LSD session, that she was connected to powerful people and wanted to try and, sure that she was talking about JFK at the time, too.
I'm blaming the CIA at this point because now the signal's gone to crap, so I'm trying to fix that.
Okay. Yeah, let me see, because the thing I like about this one we're using, it does have connection quality, too. And it's like on a cell phone, I've dropped from full bars down to 2 bars. So, yeah, there's something going on with our connection. So, anyway, as moving along, so it was often thought that through the use of drugs and LSD, her manipulation of the events through drugs and LSD, that the CIA feared that Kennedy was going to try and make peace with Russia. And so obviously he had to be killed because that's a threat to not just the CIA, but the military-industrial complex. Are we completely gone?
No, we're not completely gone. I just had myself muted so you couldn't hear me trying to figure out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, anyway.
So the man who murdered her, allegedly, was a man named Ray Crump. And he was a black man who was found near her body, and he was eventually acquitted because they found no gun. He was dripping wet and said he just fell into the river while fishing in the Potomac. And it just, the story, while not that he murdered her, it seems like a patsy setup as well. You know, much the way, we talked about Oswald before too. Yeah, it's like he was there and under very strange circumstances, but they could never find a way to pin the murder on him. And so to this day, her death still goes unsolved.
All right, so I got a lot of it cleared up, but now I'm having to
Okay.
basically do everything through my phone other than just broadcast, so that's kind of a pain
Okay.
in the ass, but anyway.
Well, we will carry on.
We will get through it, fucking CIA bastards.
And it was said in the last few years of her life, she did tell friends that she thought people were breaking into her house and rifling through her things. And she never said that she was afraid for her life, but she thought it was odd.
Well, I guess maybe she should have been afraid for her life.
Yeah.
Just saying, yeah.
I mean, when you lie with dogs, you're going to get fleas. When you're running around with the CIA and spooks, especially, I mean, get right down to it. The deputy director of counterintelligence of the CIA is looking for her diary, breaking into her house the night of her death.
Yeah,
the body isn't even cold.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like there was just. I mean, again, I know I asked this question earlier, but it just kind of makes you wonder what the hell was it they could have possibly been looking for? What could she have notated in there that they? I mean, she hadn't even been dead, but for a couple hours, and they're rifling through her house. I was like, what the hell? I don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, but.
So moving through the LSD ties into Kennedy, now again with this revelation that it was thought that she would be trying to influence him into making peace with the Russians, this kind of puts some more stank on his assassination conspiracy.
I mean, so that to me seems, I don't know. To me, the whole idea of him potentially, supposedly trying to make peace with Russia makes almost zero sense with the whole Bay of Pigs thing. It just, I don't really see that unless he knew something that we didn't. But then again, I mean, with what we're watching our government do now, I mean, it seems like that's pretty much what they've been trying to do the entire time anyway. So, I don't know. But yeah, just the whole thing. I mean, with him being his mom and apple pie as he at least appeared to be. I mean, granted, I know he was a philanderer behind the scenes and everything else. But it's like we've talked about before. One of the reasons that I think the CIA did what they did was because he was about to spill a whole bunch of beans, and they weren't going to let that happen.
Sure. I mean, you had MK Ultra was winding down. They were already getting in trouble. When we talk about the JFK assassination coming up too, the one thing that, if you want to see what the government's actually doing, and we talked about this a little bit, we're going to talk more about this with Oswald too, is that you don't read what's actually in, when you get that redacted paper, that doesn't tell you the story. You look at the header and see who was CC'd in on it, who has actually read it, because they all have to sign off. Back in the day, they would all have to sign off it was read. If you were CC'd on it, you had to sign off that you acknowledge this paper, this bit of intelligence or this whatever. So, okay, we got to get into the Kennedy assassination for that to make more sense.
Anyway. All right.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, at this point, do you want to go ahead and take the break and come back? Because we're already at about halfway point anyway.
Yeah, let's go ahead and fire that break so we can get into this uninterrupted.
All right. I'm just going to go to break with the intro again because everything's been being stupid and I didn't load anything else anyway. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Stupid CIA messing with my shit.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
At the LASIK Vision Institute, we know LASIK is a big decision, and every one of our patients is unique. That's why we customize your LASIK journey to you.
I only have a certain budget.
No problem. Right now at the LASIK Vision Institute, get 20% off LASIK when treated in April. That can be over $900 off when treating both eyes, plus guaranteed financing options. So visit GetLVILASIK.com today to start your journey towards 20/20 vision. Must mention this promotion to be treated in April of 2024 to qualify. 20% off standard price of wave light procedure. Cannot be combined with any other offers. Go to GetLVILASIK.com for details. At the LASIK Vision Institute, we know LASIK is a big decision, and every one of our patients is unique. That's why we customize your LASIK journey to you.
I'm so busy right now.
We offer a mix of convenient days and times, including 30-minute virtual appointments to fit your schedule.
I would love it, but I have astigmatism.
We treat thousands of patients with astigmatism every month with great outcomes. The LASIK Vision Institute is making your journey towards 20/20 vision all about you. So visit GetLVILASIK.com today to start your LASIK journey.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you. See you, see you.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
Ready to stand out, Army ROTC prepares you not only as a college student, but as a strong leader, allowing you to earn the rank of second lieutenant. You will be eligible for full tuition merit-based scholarships and develop leadership skills essential for your future. Start strong and enhance your college experience. Visit your campus Army ROTC representative today. To find out how you can earn up to a full tuition scholarship, visit goarmy.com/podcast to locate your closest ROTC program today. Army officers inspire, strengthen others. Paid for by the United States Army.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Alright, welcome back in for part 2, and fuck the CIA. Anyway, we're back. We're live.
Evergreen.
Tried to clean it up on the break. Hopefully it sounds better than it did before we went to break. But if not, then I'm still blaming the CIA because we were pristine until we said the 3-letter agency name.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So
we were doing great when we were just talking about exterminators and gardeners.
I know, right? As soon as we said that 3-letter agency name.
Anyway. So the impetus for this next bit begins with, there was a book written many years ago, and some of you may be familiar with it, called On the Trail of the Assassins. And it was written by Louisiana prosecutor Jim Garrison. And anybody who has seen the movie JFK is absolutely familiar with that name. And it was actually, this book was given to Oliver Stone at an elevator at a film festival in Havana, of all places. And so he became fascinated with it. And at the time,
hang on.
He was hot. He could write his own ticket.
Were there lawyers, guns, and money?
Yes, there were lawyers, guns, and money.
Okay. I just had to check.
I mean, there's always lawyers, guns, and money in Havana.
I just had to check.
So, yeah, no. That's the other show. And in the book, it lays out the case that Oswald was just a patsy. And so like Stone was like, hey, you know what, this is great, and I'm hot at the time. I can, write my own ticket. And the studio gave him $40 million to make it, which in numbers today is insane considering the cast he had in that movie. And yeah, okay, so you look at that movie, and yes, it's a dramatization, of course it is. And it kind of, it was a love letter of Stone and Hollywood to the memory of JFK. And, it was a bit maudlin in places, but it was still a good movie. And for conspiracy nuts like you and me, this was like fodder. This was something that we loved. And in the elite circles, the press and the media and everything, they immediately poo-pooed it as just a conspiracy theory. The thing that's the most interesting about it is that after the Warren Commission, and if you're not familiar, the Warren Commission was the initial investigation into the assassination of JFK. It was a 7-person panel with the director of CIA, future President Gerald Ford was on it. It was basically several, other members of Congress, and it was basically the investigation. And they said clearly, without a shadow of a doubt, that Oswald killed Kennedy, and he acted alone. It wasn't long after that there was the House Select Committee of Assassinations. They weren't satisfied with the Warren Commission. In fact, 3 of the 7 members of the Warren Commission later recanted, as well as did President Johnson, saying this just doesn't make sense. And after the House investigation, they said clearly and distinctly there was obviously a conspiracy, and Oswald may or may not have been part of it. Which is interesting because the narrative leading into and after JFK there was no conspiracy. It was common knowledge. There was no conspiracy. Oswald acted alone. Even though all evidence was contrary to that. Even it wasn't just like, conspiracy theorists, going nuts about it. And the House committee said, no, there was a conspiracy to kill Kennedy. Now, who the conspirators were, we don't know, because there were so many players at the time, and especially if you've seen JFK, way many players. It could have been anybody. It could have been the Russians. It could have been the Cubans. It could have been anti-Castro militants who were pissed off about the Bay of Pigs. It could have been the CIA. It could have been the mafia, because his brother was breathing heavy down their neck. Who was, the Attorney General of the United States at the time. I mean, there was a lot, of balls in play. And it could have been multiples of them, too. I mean, it was just all of the pieces that lay out. Every case for who killed Kennedy makes sense on some level.
Well, that's why, as you say, one of the best things you can do, especially with conspiracy theories, is embrace the power of and.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a good chance it may have actually been a joint effort. I'm just saying. As much as nobody wants to talk about that, there's a really good chance that, and again, using current events as, a good indicator of past behavior, look at what's going on right now. How many different groups right now are colluding to take out one person?
Right.
So it's not like if it's happening now, it's probably happened before. But, speaking of, past behavior being a good indication of future things, can you imagine if Trump had a brother who, when he was president, was the Attorney General?
Right.
I'm just...
That would, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I was just looking at that going, can you imagine what they would say about that today?
Even at the time, it wasn't, like, wildly accepted, but it was just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever, But still, after the Warren Report and after the HSCA, most of the information in it was never cleared for public release. And when JFK came out, Oliver Stone he wasn't really discredited, but there was a lot of hey, he's kind of a wacky guy. Look at some of his other, beliefs and all that. But what it did happen is it spawned another congressional hearing, and it was about the declassification bill. And even the New York Times was editorializing at the time that the public's right to information does not depend on the integrity or good faith of those who seek it. Meaning just because conspiracy theorists are nuts doesn't mean that they don't have a right to the information. So it became the House ruled that, okay, most of, if not all of the Kennedy assassination documents need to be unredacted. They need to be released. And even CIA Director Robert Gates at the time pledged to disclose, or at least submit for review, every relevant scrap of paper in the CIA's possession. And, in Gates' comment was, the only thing more horrifying to me than the assassination itself is the insidious, perverse notion that elements of the American government and its own agency had become part of it. So he kind of wanted to clear the CIA's name after it. So,
good luck with that.
1992. What's that?
I said, good luck with that.
Right. So this became the most ambitious declassification effort in American history, and all government records related to the assassination were being provided for the National Archives for unredaction. And this is when reporters started to kind of snoop around and see what was in there. And nobody was more dogged on it than a reporter for the Washington Post, Jefferson Morley. And he had been an editor for a while. He broke the Iran-Contra scandal for the New Republic, and he was a gonzo journalist in the way that Hunter S. Thompson was. That, in order to understand the war on drugs, he spent an evening smoking crack, and by the time he had become the Washington editor of the Nation, he had drank with Christopher Hitchens, and he was kind of and was hanging out with Czech dissidents, and he was the guy who if there was ever going to be somebody who was going to just become completely OCD about the story, it was him.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a thing though. A lot of people have gone OCD about this whole story. That's I've been rewatching. Remember that old, back when USA was in its heyday and it had white collar and suits and all the really cool shows, and
yeah.
Then it went to shit again. Mozzie, one of the main characters, which honestly I always considered him a main character, but I've been rewatching it. Like for the first 4 seasons of the 5 seasons, it was always guest starring Sharif Atkins, and then eventually by the 5th season they actually listed him. I was like, that's just, for as much as he was on the show, that seemed weird to me. But he was always like, any time he was around the FBI guy, he was like, how many gunmen on the knoll, suit?
Right. Kind of like in Sneakers with Dan Aykroyd's character constantly bugging Sidney Poitier's character. Hey, did you know that the director of operations was in Managua the day before the earthquake? Are you saying the CIA had something to do with it? Anyway, so.
But I mean, it's been a running joke for so long because of things like this. So a lot of people go OCD with it. I mean, some of the other than the moon landing stuff, JFK was one of the biggest conspiracy theories to ever catch fire. And it kind of consumed everybody because, especially if you were alive at the time and old enough to remember, I mean, they used to refer to his time in the White House as America's Camelot age. So just having that happen, and then there being so many things that just kind of really didn't make sense. Like, I mean, we've done this as part of a juxtaposition for the Mandela effect with the differences between, how many seats were in the car and,
Right.
Where all did the bullet actually go? So I mean, this has captured the imagination for so long, and then, like I said, the reason that I decided to do this again, even though we'd only done it a few months ago, was because when we started doing this, before our worlds went sideways yet again, the media was talking about it. Like, all of the media was talking about it. CNN, Fox News, everybody, because there was this news story about how JFK may have tried LSD, and it was the CIA's fault.
Right.
And I'm just like, this is something that has been bothering me because I'm starting to see an angle to this that I don't think very many people are seeing yet. They're just finding yet another way to attack more of our institutions.
Well, right, and yeah. So, one of the things Morley said. He said the spy agencies lie always. So what he figured out is like, okay, so when according to the Warren Commission and even the House, they said there was only 5 documents on Oswald, and as he started to become declassified, there were 42 documents. And the CIA's stance was, yeah, we were aware of Oswald, but we never paid much attention to him. And it's like, okay, so you had a Marine who defected to the Soviet Union and then all of a sudden decides to come back with his Russian wife in tow, and that is no interest to you. And it comes to find out, this is what I was talking about, is to find out how important something is to a spy agency, you look at the traffic signals on it, and it's in the traffic analysis, you had every document that had Oswald attached to it was being read by the people at the highest levels of the CIA. And they'd be very cryptic acronyms with the routing slips, but it's people who were signing off of it were like the assistant to the head of operations, the assistant to deputy director, and deputy director themselves, and it's the CIA was tracking him closely, and the idea that the guy came out of nowhere was evidently not true.
So, again, I don't mean to keep bringing up, pop culture references to this whole thing, but I think one of my favorite episodes of all time, well, actually one of my favorite series of episodes of all time, of the original Quantum Leap was, I think it was 4th season, because I don't think it was either 4th season or 5th. And basically, Sam kept leaping into various figures involved in the JFK assassination and kept leaping into Oswald as well. I'm sorry, what was that?
No, yeah, Jeff just dropped a...
Oh, yeah, no, I was about to mention that. I was like, we really need to figure out a way to do like a cool shirt like that for the store now that I'm trying to get something like that going, but I don't want to steal someone else's idea. But yeah, so I remember thinking, because at the end of the, I think it was like a 4 or 5 episode arc, it was one of the first times I ever saw them do something like that on TV when it wasn't like a miniseries. But at the very end, I was talking to Sam right before he leaves, and he's like, well, I didn't change anything. He's like, yeah, you did. In the original timeline, Jackie didn't survive either. I was just, I was like, now how do I really know for sure that I'm not remembering it now because he changed it?
Right.
That really messed with my head for being like 92, 93-ish. I'm just like, okay, did it actually change, or do I always remember it being anyway? But yeah, no, it's just again that was something that captured everybody's imagination, and then even in that 5-episode arc, there were questions about Oswald and everything around him, and I remember it was weird because this was one of the first times where part of the original personality remained when Sam jumped, and every once in a while Oswald's personality would come through, and he would just become like a complete dick and start yelling at people in Russian and shit, and then snap out of it and be like, what the hell's going on? But yeah, it's just the fact that this has been a part of our pop culture for so long. I mean, and again, I guess it's kind of like with Reagan being shot. I mean, I remember, what was it, probably about 6 or 7 months after he was shot, he was giving a speech, I think it was in Germany, and a balloon popped, and he just chuckled and said, "Miss me?" And the entire crowd just busted up laughing. But, so, I mean, it's just, I don't know. This has been one of those things where I have studied it and tried to take it apart and put it back together. I will tell you, there are things to me that do not make sense when you start looking at the timing of the number of shots that were made, how they were supposed to have been made, etc. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, I've seen people that have been able to recreate it, but I'm just saying that was still, they had to do it like 10, 15, 20 times to get there. That makes the odds astronomical that he was able to do it on the first try.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that always stuck with me, this always raised my foot, and this is, later finding out too, it was when Oswald was allegedly in Mexico City, and he went to the Russian embassy and the Cuban embassy, and the FBI referred to him as Mexico Mystery Man, and was never positively identified. And there were no photographs of Oswald in Mexico City. But a CIA wiretap had picked someone up presenting himself to the Soviets as Lee Oswald. And those who heard the recording, including FBI agents and staff lawyers, they reported the caller sounded nothing like Lee Harvey Oswald. And, it's in the later redacted files, there was a cable found from CIA's Mexico City station. American male who spoke broken Russian said his name was Lee Oswald, and it was read by the State Department, headquarters, CIA. Who was it? Man, I just lost his name in here. Anyway, again, high directors of the CIA, and this was like what the CIA makes it sound like is they were trying to plant the evidence on Oswald being in Mexico. Because while the FBI never, it was just, like I said, the Mexico Mystery Man, the CIA was trying to poison the well, as it were, that, oh, yeah, this was Oswald. And it was later when the FBI heard the recordings before the Warren Commission said, that's not his voice. That was always so the CIA is using the FBI to build the case against Oswald for making him a patsy.
Yeah. I mean, in again, not to draw current corollaries, but the same thing happened to an extent with the whole Trump-Russia collusion thing. The CIA basically steered the FBI in that direction, and they ran with it.
Yeah, based off of British intelligence. Allegedly based off of British intelligence.
So, I mean, it's not like it's still not happening, and it's not like it hasn't happened before. But again, it just leads credence to so many different things about this story that have never added up. I mean, if that wasn't Oswald in Mexico, why were they trying to paint it like it was? Unless it's trying to point to something that they needed to basically create a paper trail for.
Yeah, and the other thing with Oswald too is that before his arrest by the FBI in New Orleans, he was playing both sides of the fence. He was known to be with anti-Castro dissidents, and he was also working with the Fair Cuba group. You were pro-Cuba, you're pro-Castro. So he was handing out leaflets for the pro-Castro group while helping getting funding for the anti-Castro group.
You know what that tells me? CIA.
Well, that he was an agent. Yeah, he was an agent.
He was at least an asset. Maybe not necessarily an agent, but he was definitely at least an asset.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, and it tracks. I mean, I don't know what happened where he went from asset to liability, and they decided that he was going to be the one that they hung everything on. But I still firmly believe that the CIA was squarely involved in what happened with JFK. And the more of the little bitty pieces that come out, like the Warren Commission, or those recordings, and everybody's like, that's not Oswald's voice. Well, he said he was Oswald, so we're saying it's him.
Right.
Anybody can say that, dude.
Well, I mean, even so, you got, okay, so by your own admission, you've got, okay, so here's just this low-level malcontent who, renounces American citizenship and went to Russia. Then he comes back from, he's living in the United States with his Russian bride, goes down to Mexico, allegedly, hangs out at the Russian embassy and the Cuban embassy, comes back 6 days later, and the CIA is like, yeah, we're not really keeping tabs on this guy. This is the kind of thing the CIA is supposed to keep tabs on. And they say, no, we're not really watching. But then come to find out, oh, yeah, they were all up his ass. And were they directing him? I think it's plausible.
Yeah.
It's when you get right down to it, the more you find out about this goes back to what we talked about the last time we did this with Jack Ruby's behavior after the assassination, where he was obviously drugged. Because his demeanor prior to the assassination, when he was just the owner of the local titty bar, and with delusions of mafia grandeur, the loose ties of the mafia, then killing Oswald, and then the 7 days in prison afterwards, he was like coming down off of drugs. And we'd explored the possibility in the last episode of Jack Ruby actually being a subject of MK Ultra experimentation, or at least dosing.
Well, I mean, and this goes back to things that we have talked about on this show over and over and over again. Who's to say that even if, Ruby and Oswald were assets, who's to say they weren't programmed to be assets?
Right, and we talked about that in previous episodes when we were talking about, monarch puppets with Britney Spears and Marilyn Monroe. They're just programmed to be servants to monarchs, rulers, and so I mean, you look at their psychotic break after they reach a certain age, and especially looking at Britney now. Yeah, that's a puppet. Yeah, that's a controlled puppet.
Yeah. I wish I could
see
you're
breaking
wrong,
their conditioning.
But yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's just I think going back to the whole reason we started doing this, I think part of the reason why they are slowly letting all this stuff out, in between, UFOs becoming mainstream, JFK using LSD, the ties to the CIA and the JFK assassination. This is just more ways to destabilize an already crumbling country. And I'm not saying that in some ways we don't deserve the truth. I'm just saying we need to kind of pay attention to why it's all coming out now. Because this stuff has been around for 50, 60 years. Why is it all coming out now? Why are the mainstream media just now starting to talk about it? Because we know we know the mainstream media is in the tank for for whoever's running this shit show. We all know it's not the guy that can't stand up or read a teleprompter. Anyway.
Going back to your allegory about Kennedy and Trump, well, totally different. Let's not say that, but just in this situation, Alan Dulles, who was the former director of the CIA, who sat on the Warren Commission, he said that he could have informed his fellow commissioners of the plots. He just elected not to, because Dulles hated Kennedy. He considered him a pinko and an interloper, and who had unceremoniously fired him as a CIA director after the Bay of Pigs. And Senator Arlen Specter commented years after serving on the Warren Commission that during one of the moments of the commission when they passed around Kennedy's blood-soaked necktie with the bullet hole clearly visible in it, when it came to Dulles puffing out his pipe, examined it and said, "I didn't know Jack wore store-bought ties." I mean, just the contempt. It's like,
I actually had not heard that, so
yeah. So, putting in, your analogy, it's obviously the CIA considered Trump an interloper. Obviously not a pinko, but somebody who had no business being on the throne. So he had to be destroyed.
And yeah, I mean, I still think that's the Page and Strasek insurance plan that they kept saying that they had. I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, so...
There's a lot more content we would have to get into on this. We could do a whole other show, but we're going to have to save that for another time.
Yeah.
I want to do a show strictly about this sometime.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Especially a 2-hour show.
Yeah, we'll probably save that for when we do change over to the 2-hour format, which should happen in June anyway, one way or the other. So
all big things happening in June.
Big things afoot. Oh, wait. I said that.
Big things are afoot. Bigfoot.
Yeah. What kind of Bigfoot? Just kidding.
The erotic kind.
You're having a little too much fun.
Man, I wish we got into more of this, because this is just, I mean, like I said, JFK is one of those movies I love to hate, because it's like, it's so up its own ass, but it hits all the right notes with me.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And as much as I hate to say it, Costner did a fantastic job.
Well, so the best part about us waiting to do this in June is most of the rest of the setup should be up and running by then. So if I can find appropriate pieces of the movie, we can use those while we're doing the show. And
nice.
they can see them.
Yeah, we'll do.
So that should be fun.
So
it's kind of one of the ideas.
But we have other plans between then and now too. We've got at least 2 shows we've been talking about.
Yeah.
One of them actually we might have to do the roundtable with Jeff, Al, and Mickey.
I have been trying to do that, but it seems like
the topic is the one that we've always been talking about, and that is that they may have proven that we actually are in a simulation.
That would be pretty scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually, one of the things that made me want to start talking about this is I have noticed sometimes, like when I wake up, everything seems weirdly CGI for like 15, 20 seconds until my eyes adjust, and I'm just like, when did that happen, and what the fuck? Because you know me, I usually fall asleep with the TV on, and I'll wake up like in the middle of the night trying to go to the bathroom or something. I'll look up and I'll be like, I wasn't watching a cartoon when I fell asleep. What the hell is this? And then I realize it's a commercial, and like 2 seconds later, it looks normal again. I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay, no, that's weird.
What?
No, that's weird that's happening to you.
That's actually what kind of started scaring the crap out of me. And then you were like, and Mickey and I want to do the show, and I'm like, that's weird, because right about the time that you guys started talking about this, I started having this happen, and it scares the shit out of me. Yeah, and you had the same reaction the first time I told you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes.
All right.
So
believe it or not, we're pretty much to the end. I do have one piece of breaking news for those that have been waiting until you didn't have to pay full ticket price. Apparently, Dune 2 drops to HBO Max later this month. So yay.
Yeah. So if you got Max, Max is actually, I think, becoming part of Disney Plus.
I haven't seen that yet, but it would be interesting if it does, because that may actually save me another subscription.
No, because Brad and I were talking about it the other night. I just saw Jeff's name in the chat this way. Brad and I were talking about it the other night, how they're now bundling streaming services. It's like if you didn't know, if you have one of them, I think it's Hulu. You also get Showtime now.
It's Paramount Plus.
Maybe it's another. Oh, Paramount Plus. That's right. Yeah. So if you have Paramount Plus, you now get Showtime. And yeah, so no, dude, that's great. And you and I haven't had a chance to talk about it much, but if you haven't seen Fallout on Prime, it's good.
Yes, it really is.
It's fun. It's there's a lot of member berries for and fan service for the fans of the video game. I know some people are kind of mad about it's not 100. You're never going to get 100%.
You're never going to get 100%. But the one thing I will say is
80% and be happy.
The one
because
thing
it's not Cowboy Bebop.
The one thing I will say is you got to get past the first episode. There are some weird things in the first episode, but you have to get past it. Actually, in one of the work groups that I'm in, somebody had mentioned that they were finally starting to watch it, and they were like, "What did you guys think?" And I'm like, "Well, he hated it, I loved it, and he's wrong." And then it turns out that the person I was talking about did a review of it after only watching the first episode. I'm like, that's not... that's not fair. That's not how you're supposed to do these things.
Lots of exposition. They have to introduce you to the world.
I mean, come on. I mean, think about it, though. Almost every series, no matter how good it eventually becomes, is dry as fuck for at least the first season. Which is why I get so mad when they give you, like, the first season. They're like, yeah, not enough people are watching it. We're done. That's why I firmly believe that when a series is pitched and a pilot is picked up, that a show should have a Bible, and it should be contracted that Bible is finished, and then you find out where you're going after that. Because I am so sick and tired of investing energy into a show that feels like it really sucks at first, and almost every single one does. And then they get into it, they find their feet, and it gets really, really good, and then they're like, oh, now that the story's finally getting to the good part, fuck you, we're done. Looking at you, Dark Matter.
You're right. Okay, so answering Rex's question in the chat, yes, it will. I mean, it's good if you're not familiar with the video games at all. You just got to realize that there's some things that you may not grasp entirely because you don't understand the video game. Those kind of like they explain themselves, but not in like an exposition sort of way. It's like if you're paying attention, you're like, oh, okay, so that makes sense. And but a lot of things you're just going to look at, you're not going to get because it's pure fan service. So just assume that it was funny.
And the other thing, just for the people that maybe try to watch it that haven't played the games, there is going to be some dialogue that's going to seem really clunky. To me, that kind of seems like a deep Easter egg because a lot of the NPC dialogue was clunky in the game, so I kind of feel like they're just trying to bring it into life. And that's how I explained it to somebody today, and they were like, so the only thing I really have an issue with so far is some of the dialogue is really, really clunky, but having played the games, a lot of the NPC dialogue is clunky, so I don't know if they did that on purpose or not. I'm like, that was my mindset when I watched it, so I would stay there if I were you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good fun. It's got Walter Goggins. You'll remember him from Justified. He played Lloyd Crowder. It's got Kyle MacLachlan in it. It's a lot of good fun. So enjoy it. And the only thing that brings me down is that season 2 isn't going to drop until like 2026.
I know, right? That's the
other. And that's the curse of streaming.
Well, that's the other thing.
But talking about really quick, I've been watching. Okay, so I finished up season 2 of Witcher, rewatched it again so I could watch season 3 that I never watched. Season 3 is a slog. It is just so much. It's hard to watch, but I'm getting through it because season 4 is coming out. One thing I'm looking forward to, you and I were talking about this on Twitter today, is Outer Range with Josh Brolin. And I'm looking forward to that because it's kind of like if you're familiar with the show, if you're a fan of Art Bell, from everything I've seen, it touches on. It's kind of like Mel's Hole and Skinwalker Ranch thrown into, made into a good TV show with, kind of like Yellowstone meets Mel's Hole and Skinwalker Ranch.
And that was
so I'm looking forward to starting.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, those were, after watching the first episode, those were kind of the corollaries I drew. I was like, it's kind cross between Yellowstone and Mel's Hole, and it's just kind of weird. But I didn't realize there was a season 2, so now at some point I'm going to have to find time to watch that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but Rex, I think you'll enjoy it. And Jeff, you have to watch it. So, anyway.
So what else you got
There
going
we have
on?
it. Let's see. This is an off week for Culture Shift. I'll be with you on Wednesday for fucking Cottonwood having sex in my face. I'll be on with you Wednesday night for Rick and Orty. Maybe on Manorama on Tuesday. We'll see what my schedule's like then. Hopefully I'll be able to make it on Rancor Steve's Rumble channel. And God, I really want to talk about this new thing, but I can't yet. So there's signs there if you picked up on them.
Yeah, if you're paying attention, you've caught the Easter eggs. Just it's very specific stuff. But since the other parties involved have not said anything yet, I'm not going to either.
Right. Like I said, it's not our story to tell. So anyway, yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Dude, this is how I normally sound. What is going on?
It's the Cottonwood. Cottonwood is because we had such a big winter last year, and Cottonwood didn't really have a chance to do its thing. This year, it's like snow on the ground. You know those like scenes from Australia when like it's covered in web from the spider thing? Yeah. That's what my backyard looked like today with Cottonwood. So,
yeah,
I could probably knit a new dog.
So yeah, that was the irony for me, right? Because I am really allergic to cottonwood. So we finally moved into an area where there's really not cottonwood, and then I figured out that I'm also apparently allergic to cedar trees. It's like fuck, because I have like 1 million of those around me.
Cedar and juniper berry, those can, or juniper those can be hard on you. So how about you? What do you got going on?
Afternoon show won't pick up until Wednesday because we have to be out of the house again on Tuesday, so I won't be doing that. Monday night I'll be producing for the Red Wine, who's now moved to 3 Mondays of the month for 2 hours. And then other than that, just the usual stuff, doing production for the Cocktail Lounge still, because I should be home and have everything set up again before then for Tuesday. And then Wednesday, full boat. So we'll have whatever with myself and Stacy, Conservative Curmudgeon, and then I don't know what. I think I'm going to do a Rails this week because we don't have the new one yet. Because I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with Rails now that I have to work on Mondays again. Like, it's really only an hour.
Wait, you mean you're going to put it between G and us?
No, I mean, I really can't do that one way or the other anyway, because right now it only works because Talk Murder to me is every other week, so when what happens is when what is supposed to happen does happen, then that won't work anymore. But I'm debating on what to do, because, I mean, it's really only an hour, so I may just keep that the way it is. But I was just trying to get to the point where I had at least one full day off a week, so I could keep up with the other stuff that I have to do, but I can still take most of Monday off during the daytime to do all the other shit, so I guess it doesn't really matter one way or the other. So if I split it up, I'm basically getting like a day and a half off between Sunday and Monday. So anyway, I was just,
there you go.
Just trying to think out loud, but I think I'm just going to leave things the way they are, because I've been moving that one around a lot, and I need to get consistent with it again, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But so, yeah, just usual stuff. When I'm not doing all that, you can find me contributing to Twitchy, the LoftusParty.com website, and MisfitsPolitics.com. And I am the producer of the Loftus Party podcast that usually drops on Tuesdays. And then, other than that, you can find me on social media. And you guys pretty much know all of that now anyway. So, tired of saying all this crap every show.
You know, a programming note of new shows too, not just the one that's coming up, but Wednesday night, Talk Murder to Me with Laura and Aggie. There will be Laura and Daniel coming up. That was a fun show. I think I'm gonna like that one. That's a fun show.
Yeah. Yep.
So
you mean Laura and Ken, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, where did you get Daniel from? But anyway.
So,
but
anyway.
That was actually a lot of fun, and I know when he stepped in and started helping, she got a lot more comfortable, so I'm kind of glad they've decided to play off of each other.
Yeah.
I think it's going to help her.
No, that's fantastic.
She absolutely loves the content ideas, and she's just like, I just wish I wasn't so nervous. And I'm like, it's going to be okay. Everybody's nervous at first. I mean, hell, everybody.
That was funny in the green room right before the show when we were all telling our stories of our first podcasts, and yeah.
Well, I mean, so that's like, everybody knows the horror story of the very first one I ever did that we spent the entire next episode making fun of because of how bad it was.
Still my favorite story. I mean, I did one episode of FUBAR, and then the next time you have me on as a guest, and you're all like, oh, by the way, the show goes terrestrial on the weekends, and there'll be around 14 million listeners.
I said 6.
Like, oh.
Okay,
I'm just going to emphasize that number every time. It'll be by the time I finish telling the story, it'll be 40 million.
Rick told me on a break.
I don't know why I have. Yeah.
Rick told me on a break that I was going to be heard by 40 million people by Monday, and I just about hung up.
Yeah. But then my ego wouldn't let me do it, and look where that got us.
Now you've been servicing moms buying Circle K for how long?
Yeah. I've always had.
Well, yeah, but now
I've
you're
always been at war with these.
Now you're famous for it, though. Because now everybody
1
knows.
billion. Yeah.
All right, we should probably.
No, ITC is huge in India. So, and since that's the most populous nation in the world now, Jeff. Just saying. Get the Ska Avengers to do your intro. ITC is a great show. When we get another one of those?
I know, right?
The delay is annoying.
It's not my fault, man. I often have wondered why they don't have like a dump button built in with the delay that's already here anyway. It would be perfect. Because that way, if you were trying to do something from here that went out terrestrially, you could be like, oh, we can't say that word. Dump it.
Okay, soonish is the answer we got.
Yeah, it's usually what I get.
That's like every game developer. When's it coming out? Soon. Well, I'm out of iced tea, my friend.
Yeah, I know. We need to go anyway.
I used to say on the Culture Shift, I have to pee. Or not on Culture Shift, on Cyber Chill.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back again next week because that's our regular time.
Yeah, we'll be back on the reg. We haven't decided which of the two topics we're going to do yet, but since we have to put together a roundtable for the other one, it'll be the other one.
I love how you just said, we haven't actually decided yet, but since it's a roundtable for the other one, we'll do the other one. So
the other one.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I think you officially decided that was what I'm trying to say.
I think it happened.
Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye.
No hailing of the hydro.